Welcome to the Riggy's podcast, episode 1 here. Very special guest, my own dad, who is a trucker and near and dear to my heart. So y'all are in for something really great today. We got a lot of good questions, a lot of content to cover. Let's start way back. Kind of give us your initial story, like when you were born, where you were born, all that.
Where I was born?
Yeah.
Wow. I was born 1949 in Salinas, California. My dad, I was adopted, so I didn't grow up with my biological family.
Yeah.
My dad was overseas during World War II, and he came back, and him and my mother got divorced. He was gone for like 3-4 years, I think. So as it turned out, I had a twin sister. Of course, back then they didn't have ultrasound, so they didn't know they were going to have twins, but they did. And luckily enough, the people that adopted us took both of us. So I spent the first 4 years of my life in Salinas, and then Dad had grown up. Both my parents were from northeast South Dakota. And Dad wanted to get back to farming. He kind of grew up in a farm in a little town called Hillhead out in northeast South Dakota with, I don't think it's even there anymore, maybe a couple of people. But anyway, he wanted to get back into farming. So when I was 4 years old, they decided to move back to South Dakota, which they did. And I'll never forget, I guess my first ride in a truck was when I was 4 years old. He had an old single axle farm truck. And I'll never forget, we went through, I think it was Nevada, maybe somewhere in there. And we parked kind of on a ledge to get some scenery because it was kind of like a mountain type of thing.
Yeah.
Well, Dad forgot to set the brake in the truck, and I was in the truck.
Oh, man.
And the truck started rolling backwards down the hill. And they were over here talking probably 50 yards away. And he looked up and saw what was going on, so he came running. But, I get to thinking, even at that little age, I was like 4 and a half, I knew enough. I was sliding over. I was going to step on that pedal because I knew that's what Dad stepped on to stop the truck.
Yeah.
But he got in there and stopped it. So anyway, we got back to Britton, South Dakota, where we started, and we lived there for, I believe, 2.5 years. And then he bought a small farm in southeast North Dakota, north of Havana, where I grew up, and that's where I grew up.
What was the first? The first actual commercial truck you drove? You said you were hauling combines at one point, right? How old were you then?
I was 16.
Yeah, you couldn't do that these days.
Oh no. Oh, I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know.
So then fast forward through your high school years, you joined the Marine Corps, right?
Yeah.
When was that?
1968. I got out and I graduated in 67, and I stayed home, I think, for about 6 months. Then I went to Minneapolis just kind of on a whim and spent about 6 months down there. And I kept seeing all these ads on TV about Vietnam and all the guys getting shot, and I kind of started feeling guilty because there was guys my age that were over there. So I went like a dummy. I went to Fargo and enlisted in the Marine Corps. I guess it wasn't dumb, but
yeah,
just kind of on spur of the moment thing.
Man.
Pretty interesting.
So what was? I think I remember when I was a kid. You were working for Schwann's initially.
Yeah.
Driving for them.
Yeah.
So kind of talk about that. Like what led you down that path, or I guess what kind of got you down the path of wanting to get behind a truck in the first place?
Well, I don't know. I've always kind of enjoyed driving trucks, I guess, since I was a kid. I mean, growing up on a farm, it was kind of a fun thing. And then going south combining for a couple of years, I liked that.
So then we moved to Rapid City.
We were in Hettinger for 4 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Hettinger to Rapid.
Yeah,
and then I think in Rapid is when you started going with, was it Coca-Cola initially?
I drove for Coke for about a year and a half, but I was only getting like 45 hours a week, which I didn't like. I was used to more 60 and plus.
Yeah.
So I went to work for Gillette Dairy, which was owned by Kemp's, and I drove for them for 13 years. I think they shut down in 2007. And that's when I started kind of the actual semi over-the-road type of stuff. I guess, I had a small semi with Coke.
Yeah.
Had a single axle tractor and a single axle trailer, and used to make deliveries around town and, within like maybe a 25-mile radius.
Yeah, I remember when you switched over to Gillette, those were 70, 80-hour weeks sometimes.
Yeah, the first year with Gillette, the first truck they gave me was a single axle milk truck, and it had like maybe, the box I think was 27 feet long or whatever it was. It wasn't very big. And you had milk in the back and then ice cream up in a freezer compartment in the front. Well, I'd go east of town. I'd go to Wall, Kadoka, the Badlands, Interior, Wamley, down in there. And I'd come in maybe at 2:30 in the morning because we loaded our own trucks by hand. And so I'd come in and everything was slid on. He had these stacks of milk, like great crates with 6 gallons of milk and probably 5, 6 high, and you'd slide them on your truck. Took about an hour and a half or so to do that, and then do some paperwork and everything, and then you'd leave. So I'd get out of there about 5 in the morning, and I'd get back maybe 3, 4 in the afternoon. So actually, the first year I was with Gillette during the summer, I was getting 80 hours a week in 4 days. Just like clockwork. I loved it though, because we were getting paid by the hour. I think I was only making like $7-8 an hour, but that was good money back then because I had 40 hours overtime every week.
Yeah.
That thing had a V8 Cat engine in it. That I've never had an engine that stunk as bad as that one did.
Really?
That would it'd about drive you out of the cab. It was crazy. Oh, it was terrible. Jeez. It was terrible. I mean, it was the only truck that did that too. And I'd see people in town and pass them, and they'd look at me and plug their nose. You know, it was really, that was I don't know what year it was. It was probably a early '80s truck or mid '80s truck, but yeah, it was a smoke blower, that's for sure.
Jeez.
Actually, driving for FedEx was probably the worst winter driving I've ever had, because their trailers, very seldom they load them over 5, maybe 6, 7,000 pounds, and they slide the fifth wheel back on the duals on the frame of the tractor. So it picks up the front axle a little bit. So if you got any snow or anything, ice going uphill, you're probably going to spin out.
Oh, wow.
I've never had that. I've never got stuck so many times as I did with FedEx.
Wow.
You know, and I did that for maybe 3-4 years. And then I got in an accident, which wasn't my fault, but it's kind of their policy. They lay off for a year.
Yeah.
You know, and I couldn't sit around and do nothing for a year, and that's kind of how I came to going over the road where I'm at now. And I think the other big differences with trucks nowadays, it seems like they add more crap every year that doesn't really help the trucking industry. I mean, I'm sure it's probably some engineer in a cubicle somewhere in an office with a computer that thinks he's got a good idea and puts it out there and doesn't really test it enough to find out if it's going to work. I think what they should do when they're going to make technological changes to trucks is go out and talk to the drivers and the company owners and see what they think and have them try it to see if it's actually going to work.
So explain that, for the listeners that don't understand trucking, what an ELD is and paper logs versus electronic logs and how those things are monitored now versus how they used to be.
Well, paper logs were good because you kept track of your own time and you could take breaks, like an hour here or an hour there, and if you needed a nap or something like that. With the electronic log, everything is tracked computer-wise, and you have to take a 30-minute break during your first 8 hours of driving, or on duty, I should say. But the thing is, if you take it too early, then you're going to have to take 2 of them. So it was you had a little more flexibility, I guess, with the paper log, which made it, a lot better. And and I know damn well, me and a lot of other drivers out there with a paper log, you can kind of fudge a little bit here and adjust it.
Push your load
kind
a
of
little more.
because you can kind of accommodate yourself to get your load unloaded and maybe get someplace to park, without having to stop alongside the road someplace and stuff like that. So it just worked out a lot better. It was way more profitable for the trucking industry and for the truckers too.
So there's all sorts of different polls out there from different drivers as far as which city is the worst to drive in. From your experience and all the years you spent out over the road, what is truly the worst city you've ever had to go through?
For me, it's been LA, no doubt. LA, yeah. It's the last time I was there, I delivered. I can't remember the name. It's kind of like a little suburb there. I delivered there, and I had to go back. It was close to Ontario, the northeast part of town. There's 2 truck stops there. There's a Petro and a TA. And we usually stop there because I think they hold like 500 plus trucks in each one of them. So you can usually find a spot to park. So I stayed there. I went down and unloaded in I can't think of the name of it right now, little suburb. And I came back. It was 13 miles to the truck stop where I was going to park. It took me an hour and 45 minutes to go 13 miles. I know. I'm thinking, holy cow. And the other thing was, when I was going to leave the next day, I took 15, I think it was, that goes through Vegas, I believe. And I got on 610 or 210, whatever it is, that goes to 15 to go north to go up over the mountain and get down into Nevada. And I'm thinking this is like 8 o'clock at night. So I'm thinking, well, shouldn't be too busy. Kids are in school. They'll be home doing homework. Parents will be home. There won't be much traffic. I got out there. all I could see was headlights and taillights in all four directions. It was just, it was just nuts. Yeah, I wouldn't care if I never went back to California.
So what's the craziest thing you've seen while driving?
The craziest thing I've seen, I think, was at Lookout Pass in Montana, where it goes into Idaho. It's kind of a steep hill going up and coming down the other side in Idaho. But one time here, about a year and a half ago, I guess I came up, it was in the winter time, I came up Lookout Pass from the east. I got over the hump and I went down the first little curve there. And I don't know how this guy did it. There's Jersey barriers along the road there. And somehow he had a full-size semi, tractor and trailer. He was on the other side of the Jersey barriers, but I couldn't see any Jersey barriers that were tipped over before he got there. And the only wheel that was hooked on the Jersey barriers was a steer on the driver's side. The rest of and he was still in the truck. The truck was just hanging there. And it's got to be like a 300-400 foot drop to the bottom, maybe more. I don't know. Wow. It's a long ways down. Yeah. And there was a patrolman standing there talking to him, so it must I don't know when it happened, but yeah.
Saved his life. Huh?
Oh, I guess, but there's trees there too. I suppose that'd help, but still, I mean, I would not want to be in that position.
Those were snowy conditions, I assume.
Well, yeah, but the road, the road wasn't that bad because, see, Lookout Pass, both sides, usually Idaho does a pretty good job. They keep it sanded and they put some kind of chemical on it to melt the ice and that type of stuff on both sides of it. And it really was wet, but it wasn't that slippery. So I don't know how he got over there, but he did.
Wow.
But yeah, you see that all the time. You see trucks in the ditch when the roads are dry. You see trucks 50 yards out in the field next to you on their side, and I don't know how they get there, but maybe they just wanted a soft landing. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. So what are some things that you wish were different about the trucking industry today?
Different? I wish the trucks didn't have so much computer junk on them. Because like the truck I drive is a 2023 Kenworth T680. It's got a Cummins engine in it. Very few mechanical problems. Very few. It gets like, usually when I go to the Northwest, I've got around 78,000 pounds, give or take, And even through Montana, I average about 67, 68 miles an hour I like to run. It'll go 70, but I don't like to go that fast all the time. Because the thing is, if you run 70 and then you catch somebody, it's probably going to take you 10, 15 miles to get around them. So I just soon go a little slower. And if I do catch somebody, I got a little bit of soup left so I can get around them without blocking traffic. But the truck I drive, it probably averages between 7 and 8 miles per gallon. According to the gauge on the dash, I don't know how accurate that is, but that's what it says. And I've seen it at 8.5 when I'm fully loaded going through Montana, which is kind of unusual, I would think. But mechanically, I haven't had much trouble with that truck. But it's just little sensors and little Mickey Mouse stuff. But the bad thing is, some of those little sensors can shut you down if they go out.
What route's your favorite route to haul, and then why?
The one I'm on right now. Yeah. I take 90 from southwest Minnesota clear up to Seattle. I don't go into Seattle. I turn off, I believe it's Highway 18 east of town, maybe 15, 20 miles, and I go south down to Sumner and deliver there. I like it because the road is usually pretty good. Coming across South Dakota, there's nothing out there. In Montana, kind of the same way. And the roads there's not a lot of mountains to climb, not a lot of cities to go through, very little traffic. The only thing you got to worry about is deer. Yeah. And not a whole lot of them neither most of the time. And they've got cattle guards in the trucks nowadays. So if you hit a deer, it's probably just
I was going to say, I'm sure you've hit a few of those in your day.
Just a bump in the road. Yeah. You don't really have to stop. I did have a deer though. Excuse me. One time when I was driving for FedEx, west of Hot Springs, South Dakota, there's kind of like a little lowland down in there. And I was coming over the hill there, and deer and elk like to hang out down there. Well, I was coming over this hill, and a buck came out of the ditch with his head down, hit my truck, and actually put a hole in the fender on the driver's side. I couldn't believe it. I didn't think I couldn't. And another thing I've noticed, I've had this happen a couple times too. I've hit a porcupine, and you wouldn't think those quills would stick in truck tires, but they do. Wow. It's just I hit one when I was driving for FedEx one time in Wyoming.
Man, just roadkill all over the place.
Yeah. Oh shit. Yeah. There's all kinds of stuff laying out there. Whatever you want, you can have it.
Yeah.
But yeah, those quills, they stick right in that big old heavy truck tire, and you got to pull them out with the pliers to get them out of there. I don't know if it'd do any damage or not. But, yeah. One thing truck driving has taught me is patience, I guess, because you can't get in a hurry. It doesn't do you any good. Yeah. You just got to take the time and kind of go with the flow and see what happens, I guess. you know.
So yeah, no. Obviously, we made Riggy's to offer truck parking to guys like yourself, as well as local haulers, guys that live local, guys that drive over the road. So had the luxury of taking you to our newest lot out in Katy, out at West 10.
Yeah.
Fully paved, 56 video surveillance cameras on site, all monitored in real time, 7 nights a week.
Yeah, that thing's amazing.
You got to see the truckers lounge and all that sort of stuff, free showers, free laundry.
Yeah.
So what, I guess a couple questions around truck parking. One, like, I understand you see it as a bottleneck as well, as far as what drivers have to face on a day-to-day. It's why you're parking 100 miles away from your delivery the next day because you can't find a place to park.
Yeah. Yeah.
But with that lot being strategically located and offering free types of showers, I mean, what was your take when you saw the lot for the first time? What did you think of the showers and the lounge and laundry facilities and all that sort of stuff?
Seriously, I couldn't believe it.
Really?
I couldn't believe the money you had to spend to build that place, to make it as nice as it is, and you're only charging $25 a night.
Yeah.
You should be charging $50. I mean, serious. I pay more than that for a little dumpy truck stop in Sumner, Washington that's not near half as nice as the one you got. I mean, the parking to back in to begin with is hard to do because you've only got maybe like 6 inches to 12, well, probably or 12 or less between trucks and the parking. And there's trash all over the place, I mean, it's dirty.
Yeah.
And where you guys, there's plenty of room to park there. I mean, you could whip a Louie out there between rows of trucks and still get in. I mean, it's amazing. Yeah. And the free showers and the free laundry, that is, you never see that anyplace. A shower nowadays is probably between 15 and 20, maybe even more for a shower in most of the truck stops I go to.
Yeah.
And parking is 25 and on up. For not as good a parking place and not as good a place to take a break.
Yeah.
So,
a lot of the
decent.
kind of the lots that I've pulled and just calling in different truck stops and that sort of stuff. I mean, they're not fenced, they're not gated. It's
no
security.
Well, that's another thing. You got security.
You're still paying for it. Yeah, we got guards and all that sort of stuff. So
that's worth a lot. Security in itself.
Yeah. So
here's
so if this one just kind of came to mind. So for those that haven't seen a Riggy's lot, because we got 3 more that we're going to bring to market. You saw the one at West 10. We got one in Memphis, one in Dallas, one in San Antonio. They're all going to have the same look and feel, fully paved, lounge, showers, restrooms, laundry, all that sort of stuff. What would you tell other drivers that don't know about Riggy's?
Oh, check them out for sure. Oh yeah, you're never going to get service like that anyplace else. I mean, and it sounds like you're locating them close to DC's.
Yeah.
So, you can't beat that, Because like where I go out there in Sumner to deliver there, actually what I do, I usually leave Missoula or maybe like Ritzville, Washington the night before, maybe 3-4 hours or 8 hours from Missoula, whatever it takes to get to Sumner. Because there's very seldom, I don't get there early enough in the day to find a place to park. And like after probably 3-4 in the afternoon, everything's full. And what a lot of drivers do in Sumner, I go to Costco up there a lot. What a lot of drivers do there, they'll park along the road, an off-ramp or on-ramp, whatever they can find, or there's a couple other warehouses there, distribution centers close to Costco. They'll park there, and just kind of try to get by. But I like to be out there where I know I'm going to be safe and not get kicked out or nothing like that.
If we had a Riggy's flagpole near your drop, you could advance. You could drive that extra 100 miles knowing you had a place to park.
But see, the thing is, and I do this sometimes, like where they have reserved parking. If I know I'm going to be there the next day or that night, whatever, I'll call ahead maybe like at 1 o'clock or noon the day before and reserve a spot. So I got a spot when I get there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. That makes a big difference. I've done that before. I hauled a load to Clackamas, I think it was, Oregon, some little suburb of Portland a few years ago. And I got there they said my appointment was 6 in the morning. Well, I got there at 6. No, your appointment ain't till 9. You can't park here. So I had to drive around in the dark out there around Portland, trying to find a place to park a semi. I had to wait 2-3 hours or whatever before I could get in there.
Jeez.
And it's not that easy to do in the middle of the night, especially with the semi. I did find a spot, but I mean, it'd be much nicer to have a place, a truck parking lot like yours where you can park and know you're going to have a place with lots of room and laundry and a shower if you want one and everything. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You can't beat that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Dad, for coming in. This was the first and easily the most meaningful.
Hopefully it was worth your time.
Oh, yeah, definitely worth my time. Hopefully it was worth your time. This one's real special to me, so I do appreciate it. And
Good.
Thank you for talking my ear off all these years when you're out over the road, because everything you've taught me and about your stressors and the things that you face day to day over the road allowed me to implement service and a product that I know you guys will want. I know you guys will appreciate.
For sure.
I know from everybody on our side, we appreciate what you do, keeping America moving. And for those of you that are interested in more info, follow us. We've got giveaways, all sorts of content we're creating. Whether you're a first-time driver, seasoned vet, or not a driver at all, we've got all sorts of Q&A sessions that we'll have. So you can follow us at Riggy's Parking, and that's at Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok.